Good evening. I'm here to talk about the three most common issues I have dealt with as a coach. Those three issues being parents, entitlement, and fundraising. As far as parents go, I'm going to talk a little more on the baseball side. I coach football and baseball at the school I'm at, and for whatever reason, those baseball parents seem to be a whole lot more crazier than the football ones. And I think, saying that, I think the baseball parents are that way because of what we have now. With travel ball exploding in the way it has over the last 5 to 7 years. As long as you pay a certain amount of money, you can go play. And there's so many travel teams now. Any kid, good, bad, or indifferent, can find a team to play on and play all summer. And a parent is not going to pay for their son to play on a travel team if they're not going to get to play. So that parent finds them a team to play on, pays the money, they play all summer. So when tryouts come around at the first of the year, kid makes the team, but games start rolling and that kid didn't get to play. The parent is sort of like, well, why didn't my kid play? He got to play all summer. He was the best hitter on the team. He was the best pitcher on the team. So that is definitely a battle, especially, with baseball. I do not see that as much in football, but then again, there's, their football team is the team at the school. A lot of these, baseball guys have their high school team and then one or two travel teams they play on in the fall, the summer. It's just gotten really out of hand, in my opinion. And I did play travel ball, but it is just, like I said, over the last 5 to 7 years, it has just really exploded. There's so many, you can really find one anywhere to get on. But that's definitely an issue that us baseball coaches deal with in the spring as far as parents go. We'll jump on to entitlement. When I get back to fundraising, I'll get back around to the parents. They sort of mesh together a little bit. But with entitlement, I love working with kids. Love being around them. But with today's day and age, you got social media, this, that, and the other. Kids are just, sort of want to do what they want to do. They don't want to be told what to do. Part of the time. So as a coach, I've had to learn that happy medium of trying to motivate, but to also the way kids are nowadays, you don't want to necessarily run anybody off unless they're breaking team rules or can't do what they're supposed to do. But kids just with the way social media has exploded, the kids are they're tough to handle sometimes, and I know that if you talk to a coach who has been doing it for 25, 30 plus years, they're the best ones to talk to, because I grew up being coached by those old coaches, but now those old coaches are still in it. How things have changed, and you can't necessarily coach like you used to, and it's just you gotta find that happy medium as a coach nowadays to try to motivate these kids and get them going in the right direction. So now I'm going to jump to fundraising. I learned this being a head baseball coach 2 years ago. That is definitely something important as far as any program goes, whether it be football, basketball, wrestling, lacrosse, tennis, golf. If you're going to have a season, you got to have funds to have a season. And I said I was going to relate this with the parents. You see a lot of schools nowadays charging player fees. I've heard them, $350, $750, $1,000. But it's not necessarily the program's fault. They're just almost forced to do that nowadays because the school systems and the schools are not giving as much money towards athletics. And you've added a lot of sports teams to a lot of schools. You talk about lacrosse, girls wrestling are two that you can say over the last 10 years have been added to probably at least 75% of schools in the state of Georgia. So all these schools, it's not just schools' fault. They're having to support more athletic programs. So on the flip side, there's not as much money left in the athletic department to run these programs. 30, 40 years ago, you had football, basketball, baseball, tennis, wrestling, and that was really it. You got GHSA. I coach in the state of Georgia. The GHSA has started esports, which is the video game thing. Of course, you got swimming. There's just so many athletic programs and different sports out there nowadays that athletic department has to support. That these player fees are almost forced upon these certain programs. But with that, going back to the parents, if mom and dad stroke $1,000 check and little Johnny's not getting to play, well, you're going to hear about little Johnny not getting to play. And they sort of got you in the corner because we paid $1,000, my boy needs to play, and it's just it's tough, but you look at those and reading some of the chapters, some of them coaches who can handle the political side, are the ones who you look at, over the longevity of 10, 12, 15 years who are successful because they have these issues, they just know how to deal with it. And I found that out real quick, jumping into a head baseball coaching role that, the parents and then the fundraising, it's definitely wild. And in some aspects, as a head coach, you do a lot more political things than actually coaching things. So that's why, having good assistant coaches is important. Well, that's all for me. Have a nice night.